Okay. All right, guys, I think it's working. So again, we're just going over the test-taking strategies today. So we're not going to go too in-depth on reading this. I just want y'all to be prepared, especially tomorrow for y'all's mock STAR test. It's a mock STAR, which is the same thing as a benchmark. Look, I know. Okay, yes, tomorrow. 5 hours, but y'all got this. Okay. Y'all will be in the room. Y'all will have 5 hours available to you. Guys, okay. So when you first get to an informational text, what is the first thing that you do? You look at the questions, you look at the text feature. So what is the title? Babe Didrikson, the greatest female athlete of all time. Okay, so it's going to probably have something to do with sports. And there's no other text feature. So now we can go straight to the questions. When we're looking, I know this is kind of hard to see, but when we're looking at the questions, we first do what? We read it. The author's purpose for writing this selection is to. All right, next we need to kind of figure out what the actual question is. What is the most important thing that they say here, and what is that? Author's purpose. So we're going to highlight author's purpose so that our eyes go straight there. And then what's next? Once we highlight author's purpose, we're going to go to the front of our story. And then we're going to write author's purpose with a question mark. And we're not going to put it in a specific, like near a specific paragraph, because we're looking for the overall author's purpose of the text. Right? We're just giving ourselves a cheat sheet so that we know what to look for as we're reading. We're reading all of it, but we're paying attention to what we need to be successful on those questions. All right, next question, number 2. It says, according to the selection, which of these is an example of how Didrikson invented herself as she went along? What's the most important words here? Okay. So how she invented herself as she went along. So I'm going to write that. How did she invent herself as she went along? And I'm going to throw a question mark. And as I'm reading, when I see that, because I know it's directly from the text because they have direct quotes, when I see it, I'm going to highlight it because it's going to answer that question for me. Okay? And number 3 reads, what do the authors mean when they write in paragraph 6 that Didrikson knew a teenager would get cut more slack and receive more ink? So what is the most important part here? What do they mean? And then where is it? Where can we find it? Paragraph 6. So we're going to go to paragraph 6, and it's the direct quote is, knew a teenager would get cut more slack. So we're going to turn to paragraph 6, and it's the last sentence. We're going to go ahead and highlight that entire sentence because we know it's pertinent, it's important. And then we're going to write that important part of the question, which was, what do the authors mean? If I'm reading and I remember and I think of it real quick, then I'm going to write off what I think to the side. That might answer that question for me later. And we do this because when you take tests like this, it's really to trick you. Just like when you're in a job, you're filling out those quizzes for a job. They're meant to trick you. we do this process and it makes it a lot easier to go through and just focus on what's really important and get rid of the rest of it. Okay, number 4. The authors include the information in paragraphs 11 and 12 too. So what do we do here, guys? Yes, paragraph 11 and 12. And then the authors include the information. So this is another author's purpose question. So we're just going to go to 11 and 12. We're going to put little stars next to it. And then we're going to say why. Because we're looking for their purpose, for their reasoning. Okay, it's on the back, page 58. And I'm just going to... And I'm going to put either author's purpose or why, because it's literally the same question. Why are you doing something? What's your reason for doing this? What's your purpose? Right? So now we've got number 5. Read this quotation from paragraph 13. The LPGA runs a fine and profitable tour these days, and its teaching division has done far more to reach out to poor and minority youngsters than has the men's game or most other sports. The author's tone in this sentence can best be described as. So what do we need to do here? Author's tone. And then where are we finding this quote? Yes. Okay. So now we go back to paragraph 13, which is at the bottom. Oh, we're missing a picture here. There were text features. You just can't see them. All right. 13. And then we're just going to write tone, question mark. So when I read that paragraph, I know I'm going to get my highlighter, and I'm going to go through and highlight the words that convey a feeling, okay? So has done far more minorities and youngsters. All right, I'm going to go through, and when I read it, I'm going to highlight the words that convey a feeling. Okay? All right, and number 6, which of these best summarizes the article? Okay. We don't know. What are we looking for? Summarize. Okay. So one thing that we could do next, we're going to write summary with a question mark at the top. Put a little question mark. Okay. And then once we're done with that, as we read to answer that question, we could easily go through and highlight the most important sentence every few paragraphs and come up with a summary. Kind of have an idea to answer that question. Okay, so again, before we ever read the story, we already know that we're going to have to identify the author's purpose, their whole reason for writing this text. We're going to have to be able to answer, how did she invent herself as she went along? What does that mean? We're going to have to give a summary, and these are our overall questions on the text. And we also know it's going to have something to do with sports. We know we've got a question in paragraph 6 about that she knew a teenager would get cut more slack and receive more ink. We have to figure out what the authors mean. Have a good day. We have to figure out the author's purpose or their reason in paragraphs 11 and 12, why they're there. What are they telling us? Why did they give us that information? And we have to figure out the tone in paragraph 13. Okay. I promise this doesn't take long whenever you're doing it on your own. Okay. So we don't have enough time to answer. But I know I'm just going to tell you guys, whenever you're taking your test, I want you to use process of elimination, okay? So if we're on number 1, and we've read this, we're going to read all the answer choices carefully, and then we're going to narrow it down to the best two choices. That way, if you're guessing smart. Do not guess stupid, okay? Guess smart. Narrow it down. Don't get rid of an answer unless you have a reason. And if you don't have a reason and you can't find a reason, find it in the text. It's there for you, right? So go look back and find why it's not the right answer. Once you've narrowed it down, get it to the best two choices, and then guess if you have to, okay? We're not going to have time to read these. I want y'all to get a little practice in, and I'll come around. Go through the next set of questions and do what you can on highlighting the most important parts and marking, pre-annotating, so writing the parts that you should focus on the text, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Do what we just did, but just really quick on your own for the next set of for the next text.